So it's like one beat of the simple shuffle, and one beat of the Georgia shuffle. So it's like. Anytime something is difficult to do rhythmically, like within the body versus the bow, it's good to start with vocalizing and moving your body, because we do that all day. We walk and we talk, we move our feet and we talk. Like, we're used to kind of that kind of multitasking, but not multitasking where our arms are doing something different from our body. So make sure you can do that silly little mnemonic that I made for it, which is dooka chucka yaka chaka dooba chutta yaka chaka dooba chutta yaka chaka. So then you at least know what it's supposed to sound and feel like in the body, right? And then, try that. I'll put the thing on one more time. Do that while the track is going, so you can join it. Being a part of the rhythm section, sort of, or driving the rhythm, because the band is smaller usually. There's not as many players, and there's more people just playing the melody. So there's certain bowings that develop to kind of contribute to the rhythm, even if you're like playing the melody. And that's why some of these same bowings that we're working on in old time might sound a little bit different. So like they play that shuffle bowing like this. So you're getting this little S shape. And that exists in that bowing and also the Georgia shuffle. They do that little thing where there's like a lot of S shapes to get like extra articulation, so that like the subdivision is there. In a bluegrass band or a country band, the drummer or the banjo player is playing the subdivisions. But in a or a country band, someone's playing that. Old time, not as much. So a lot of those bowings came out of kind of adding the subdivision. And you can try that maybe on the Georgia shuffle. So like that sort of stuff. There's all these little swoops and stuff like that on the up bows that happens in old time music. But purpose of this, I want to move on. Now we have like kind of the right hand checked in for the most part. I want to move to getting those, instead of static staying on one chord, to move from one to the next. So for example, if we're on a D chord. So there's like kind of a little process, I think, to get to that level of kind of comfort with that. And that has to do first with knowing your D double stop. So like if you've seen the chord stacks from Chris, you know that like any combination of D, F sharp, and A work. I like to think about it in the way that I wrote if you click on essential bluegrass double stops in there, they're broken down.
Anybody else keep getting an error when you talk about
I don't have access either.
Access to the file?
Yeah, he didn't give me that earlier, but then he gave it to me. He told me the same and then it changed.
I've tried it over and over.
Yeah, that was the message I got earlier, yes.
Oh, interesting. Try refreshing that page, because this is like changed a lot. I don't know if,
This page.
No, like refreshing the Google Doc. Oh.
Now I got it, but I couldn't get it earlier.
Try this. Try clicking on the. No.
And what should we click on this page?
It's supposed to be either the first link or the language. Well, I'll take a look at that later. I can just show you the double stops now.
Using this page, what do I do?
Oh, you have it,
I
yes.
have it.
Okay, so I'll just give you like one. Yeah, you can use the chords, but is there a D chord stack?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So if you want, you can look at that. Or if you have it, pull that out. We're looking at a D chord stack. Well, let's start with just this double stop here, A and open D. Okay, so what I want you to do is we're gonna, basically getting this shuffle going, kind of feeling really good, we're gonna add a mixture of upper neighbor tones and lower neighbor tones to this double stop. So here's an example of lower neighbor tone. Here's an example of an upper neighbor tone. So the way I think about it is you're momentarily moving from your home base, which is this D chord. You're moving away from that for just a second, and you're coming back to it, and you're combining that with all the right hand stuff we just worked on. So let's try the lower neighbor tone. So your lower neighbor tone to an A note is a G. We're just going to go like this. to diatonic neighbor tones, meaning the note above or below in the scale that you're playing. But I find that in bluegrass and country music, because it's influenced by the blues, a lot of the notes that are beneath these chord tones end up being flat thirds or flat fives, which is a part of the blues language. So I find that there's a lot of chromatic lower neighbor tones being used in this music like this. Instead of, they both fit, but chromatic lower neighbor tones. Almost every chromatic lower neighbor tone sounds really good. So let's try this one together. Let's go the lower neighbor tone to A. So. Target double stop, F sharp and A. Find that one. And let's do a diatonic, so like the E note going to F sharp. Let's do that for on the shuffle bowing, starting with the national shuffle. Simple shuffle. Natural as your lower neighbor tone. We'll go starting with the national shuffle. Use a variety of those, really cool. You could also do the same thing with like, basically if you mix and match those and switch your double stops every once in a while. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put on a bluegrass song that only stays on one chord. There's a couple of like old-timey numbers, like fiddle numbers that just stay on like one chord. I'm going to put one on in G, one on in D, or one in G and one in A. And I want you to try, if you're new to chords, maybe have the chord stacks in front of you and figure out some ways to play the G chord. We'll start with G. Make sure you have like maybe 3 different double stop shapes for G.
I have a question. When you were just doing that, was that what you were, were you all just playing neighbor tones, or you were kind of, is that what you're thinking?
Those are all neighbor tones, and sometimes I switch the double stop that's home base.
Because it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like you're playing some kind of melody, but some kind of.
It does,
but
as soon as you
like
mix and match them, they start
okay,
sounding
so you're
more.
it's just the fact that you're mixing the double stop.
Yeah, so for example, if I did super slow motion, first beat. That That's a lower neighbor tone and upper neighbor tone on this double stop.
Because
Now I'm gonna do the next one.
C-
Now I'm gonna do the same thing again. It's all like mixing and matching.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't really get that.
It's weird, like when you hear it,
Because it doesn't sound
when
like
you
it's
hear it, it
really
doesn't
good.
sound like it's that like academic or whatever, but like when you break it down, that's really what's happening.
Yeah, it sounds like you're just.
Noodling.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna put on a song in G, and I'm gonna slow it way down to like maybe 80 or 90 beats per minute or something like that, and I want you to just for like 2 minutes to kind of mix and match all these shuffle bowings. You can leave out the moving notes if you want and just focus on the right hand, or if you're ready, you know, you can do whatever. Let's go 80 hill. This is the normal speed. It's like all G. side of it. In the last bit of class, I want to kind of shift to playing notes and stuff like that. But I'd like you just to kind of debrief what you just worked on with the person, maybe a new person, but like the person near you. Just talk to them about what the, what the challenge was, if that's what you might be, what you felt like you were familiar with and maybe less familiar with. While I pull this up, talk to people.
Yeah, I think in the it was I think that when he was doing it was actually just neighbor tones.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, just
it
kind of
is like neighbor tones.
That's really hard not to go see
It's easier there, but that's all
I
kind of
can't
neighbor
have
tones.
one in a session
That sounds kind of
Yeah,
I haven't thought as much
Yes.
about like the second
Yeah.
it's
pretty-
pretty.
I don't know. You know, back when these neighbors were on it. So I finally feel like I grasped it a little bit, but to the next one.
So which one was that?
I'm still struggling.
Like which one was that?
I think
Yes, of
I'd be able to pull up that.
The combination, the last one you were doing, that one was hard.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, that's, I think we're totally
Do you
fine.
think what she's doing, like, the one that goes, or is it like, are you supposed to change your fingers on every beat? If that's the same
And I
thing.
look at it, it's fine. That's fine.
I don't know, that's more like a no. But it's interesting to sound. Maybe you're just
Cool. So let's look back and wrap up whatever. I will take a look at the link. I have a feeling the document is like so. There's a lot going on and like things are making it glitchy or whatever. But if there's any other way for me to get the document to you, I'm going to be referring to a lot of the resources in there. They're all hyperlinked to like videos or PDFs that I use and refer to when I'm talking about this thing. So the things we've worked on so far. The middle column, essential bluegrass double stops, it's basically breaking up double stops in a order called closed position and open position. There's like two different types of combining notes. And I have that in the basic variation, root third, fifth, and then later on in that column are the bluesy variation where it includes like flat sevens and things like that, like different double stops that include combinations of bluesy notes and stuff like that. And there's another section that are called swingy double stops, which kind of have a different set. But I want to look at the left-hand column of this document here, which is called melody construction and scales or whatever, like collections of notes. And that's what I use both to pick up melodies really quickly that I've never heard, which is a big part of like jamming in this genre of music. That's the kind of the crux of next class is, well, actually, the next class I'm teaching is making a melody that you know or is very simple sound more fiddly. But right now I want to focus on like kind of building a sense of, can we play notes that reflect the chord changes? So some people might call this like playing in the changes or whatever, but this applies to both finding melodies. Melodies follow the chord changes, like the notes that are in a G chord, or the notes over a G chord are likely going to be G, B, or D. Or from the G pentatonic scale or something like that. And it also applies to your improvisation. So like if you're playing over a D chord, you have a collection of notes that sound good, right, as a starting point. And all the goal of our practice is to bring this like theoretical knowledge into intuition. So the more you play it on your instrument, it comes out of your instrument, you hear it in the context of music, it starts to like build as a thing that you just naturally hear when you hear other music. So if you hear a jam without a fiddle, you'll hear in your head, you'll develop a sense of audiation of like what's missing, That's the end goal. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to basically play the pentatonic scale, the D pentatonic scale, which I'm sure you all know. But when I practiced playing over chord changes, when I first started, I took symmetrical finger patterns on the fiddle. So the fiddle is this instrument that's really great, so if you move that D pentatonic scale, it becomes G to the left, becomes A to the right. So everybody just do that really quick. Play D pentatonic, go. And now if you move that to the left, it's a G pentatonic. melodies that reflect like what's happening in the chords is to play pentatonic scales while the song is happening, so over the chord changes. So that would sound like this. You can play with me once you kind of get it. This is just a song that has really slow chord changes. So like, I can go like this. Then I can do A. There's an A chord, I'm playing A pentatonic. Back to D. Same thing. Now G. D again. D one more time. Play it backwards. A backwards. Same thing. D backwards. D again. G backwards. D backwards. Same thing one more time. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take notes from that collection. Like when we're on a D chord, I'm going to play a D idea that's made up of those notes, and I want you to echo me. So I'll just like make a little musical fragment that kind of is based on that chord. So go ahead and echo me on this. Here's a D idea. It's an A idea. D. Sorry, D idea. pentatonic scales or whatever, that's where you want to be, once you get really comfortable with that, then you kind of move to the next step. The idea of this document that I have, how many of you have not seen that when I'm talking about this? the roadmap document thing. Okay, cool. So I can show you at the end of class where, but basically it's broken up into 3 categories, and then the rows kind of get progressively difficult and they build on each other. So what we're going to kind of go to next is the second column. But really before you get to the second column, if you were to click on this first thing that I put there, it tells you kind of like the starting point, the pentatonic, which is what we did, and then getting into playing extended range pentatonic scales, so that when there's a D chord, you can really play any note from like the D pentatonic collection kind of freely, sort of like something like this. Let's see.
Which one did you say you started?
The first one.
Very first one?
The first, top left-hand corner, yeah. So if I did like all pentatonic through the chord change, it'd be like. That's all pentatonic, right? And it feels like you're playing within the chord changes. Now, adding one note to that gets us to the next scale that I put in this, order of things. And that adds a lot of flavor, just adding this one note. It changes what I just played into something like this. That's all coming from just adding one note to the scale we just worked on. So let's add that, the same exercise we were just doing. What we're going to add is this blues note from a scale that some people call the major blues scale. Very common in country music. Oftentimes people refer to it as the blues scale, just like in general as a thing that happens in blues music. But I found that like the darker bluesier stuff comes from what's referred to as the blues scale, which is really the minor blues scale. And then what we're playing here is the major blues scale. It's just a different collection of notes. That's really the same relationship, minor-major, as like a minor-major scale on piano, like the white keys being all major, or all C major, or all A minor. But anyway, what we're going to add is the flat 3. So we're adding that low 2 note on our instruments to play the scale. Keeping all the notes the same, adding the low 2. Which is the flat 3rd, like the 3rd note of the scale flattened. Not a 3rd finger, I mean the 3rd note of the scale. I would consider it as like a legitimate. I would consider it as like a legitimate note as opposed to just a like
just
a
a pass. Just a pass. So
not really as bad. It's like a legitimate note. Like on a D chord, you go.
But you're always moving to the actual third, or you're not.
No. Sometimes what I'm trying to say is in a lot of other music, like Celtic and Irish, it's just a passing note. But in blues and bluegrass can be a legitimate note that you play over a chord. I mean, yeah, I guess theoretically it kind of wants to go somewhere, but sometimes it doesn't quite get to the 3rd or like falls after. But anyway, let's just get that sound in our head. We'll do the same exercise as we did before. So, just playing this together. And then the same thing on A. Now I'll do musical ideas that all start on this new bluesy note that we just added. So I'm going to start on the bluesy note. It tends to be a low 2 note. Extended range for that, you start to hear how that adding that one bluesy note kind of gives you a real sense of, I think, Ben, you were mentioning earlier, like the bendy notes fitting within the chord changes. That's a big part of like sounding like you're in.
Is this what you're talking about, the extended whatever? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I wrote these out in like the way that Jason Anik, who's the guy that's teaching it the other week, he referred to improvisation in a really interesting way. He said, I want, every time there's a chord, I want to be so familiar with how that chord lives on my violin that I want to imagine the fingerboard as being lit up in certain spots. And those like lit up spots are the notes that basically sound good over that chord. So I turned that into a visual because I just thought it was a really cool idea. And I wrote it out there, and I color-coded the root note of the chord as a darker red, the other notes as lighter red, and then the blue note as blue note. So check out that, because that could be a really fun thing to explore, especially if you just put a static chord on. Let's see where if we just put a static, say, G chord, and we look at that extended range thing. Where did I put that? So these are like all the notes in extended range that sound good over G chord. look at it visually, you get really kind of familiar just noodling on this like kind of collection of notes that they call. Maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll slow it down a little bit. Yeah, go ahead and look at that if you want. Let's really quickly apply this scale that we're working on to a song where we play like a little bit more tastefully in the spaces. So play the A blues scale, major blues. That one on your own. So now we're going to play in the spaces between a singer. Here, I'll demonstrate on the first verse and then you can try.
Must be someplace around. You got to treat her right this cloudy.
So what do you?
My brain is cloudy. My soul is upside upside down. When I get that low down feeling, I know the blues must be someplace around. You got to treat her right, day by day. Get out your prayer book, get out on your knees and pray. You're going to need my help one of these days. You're going to be sorry you treated me this way.
Listen to me do this instrumentally. Same idea. Still listening to this instrumentalist, same phrasing as the vocalist. Getting a little bit lower in the register. Anyway, same idea as before. Keep practicing.
Don't that sun look good going down? Good evening. Don't that sun look good going down? Don't your home look so lonesome when your lover ain't around?
Try with the instrumental now. Lower notes.
All together.
That's the idea. So I generally, when I'm accompanying instruments, I try to like stay a little bit lower because they tend to, instruments like the pedal steel guitar doesn't need to take a breath, you know. So they tend to sustain a little bit longer than a singer. There might be less space in general in people's solos, but still, if we add just a little bit, you know, in and out, we can kind of keep our brain engaged in listening and trying to contribute like in a way that complements the other person, doesn't get in the way, but still kind of like has this conversational elements to it. So last thing I want to leave you with is, you'll see that the next two collection of notes on the left-hand side of this document is minor pentatonic and minor blues. So a lot of times, what the blues, I feel like is a large portion of what the blues is about from a melodic perspective is actually mixing major and minor. So like people often say it's the blues in A, and some classical people will say, well, is it A major or A minor? And they might answer just, no, it's A. And they'd be right to say it's A, because it has a collection of C naturals and C sharps and G naturals and G sharps, and it's all over the map, right? So that mixing and matching is a part of like the element, the part of the blues that's about self-expression, kind of playing how you're feeling, and so you have this kind of choice as an instrumentalist to express the chords in a way that's maybe brighter or darker, meaning more minor or more major. So in this context, for example, you know, the singer is singing a mix of stuff that's major blues and minor blues. If I kind of do the same thing with my playing, you'll see that it kind of keeps things fresh. That's the minor blues.
My brain is cloudy and my soul is upside down.
Now I'll do a minor blues idea at the
When
end.
I get that low down feeling, I know the blues must be someplace around. I hear you, baby.
Right? So mixing and matching that major and minor sound is a big part of it. So I just wanted to really quickly go over the G minor blues scales. So pentatonic sounds like this, G minor pentatonic. It's like a B flat scale, but starting on G. B flat pentatonic.
You're saying G minor?
A G minor pentatonic scale is G, B flat, C, D, and F. Yeah, you can look at B flat. Yeah, it's the same B flat slash G. Or B flat, yeah, slash G minor. Bluegrass music, also influenced by the blues, has a lot of that, and that's why the accompaniment sometimes leaves the third out. Like the way that a bluegrass guitar player plays the G chord, they leave out the B note. It's just G and D. That's why if you listen here, there's no B note. That means the singer or a soloist can play. Both the B flat sounds good, or B natural. So the mixing and matching of those notes is a big part of like the blues idiom and blues influence on this music. But we explored the G, like the major one, so I want you to try this minor scale. Try that over this. Right over the same slot, G. I changed it to G. Listen. Use this G scale.
You're going to be sorry. You treated me this way.
So like when you hear a harmonica, like a real blues harmonica player, they're often using this scale. Like you probably heard that. That comes from the minor blues. It's sliding into the D note. Yeah, mixing that this note. Which you probably, people call that the blues scale, but it's really the minor blues scale. In their what's the word in classical music for like C major and A minor? Relative, yeah. So the same is true for these pentatonic scales, where the G minor pentatonic or G minor blues is relative to what? B flat, yeah, B flat major, yeah. Or so B flat major blues, same as G minor blues, yeah.
I guess so. I mean, the minor pentatonic scale, like to me, is it bad to just think of that as a B flat major pentatonic scale?
You could, no, it's the same thing.
It's
I mean, it's the same idea as like if you're improvising in C major, you could just think about it as I'm improvising in the key of no sharps and flats.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's like.
I think thinking of it as eventually, it's better to think about it with G as its epicenter because that's where your musical ideas are going to resolve to.
It's
to make
like
it sound
different,
minor.
the third, first, third, and fifth or whatever are different for the minor scale, but they're all in this B flat scale.
Yeah, and also if you really think through it, it's really interesting. In the G minor blues, it's root, flat third, fourth, flat fifth, fifth, flat seventh, and then the B flat, root, second, flat third, third, fifth, sixth. They have different functions with the same notes. Anything to think about. But anyway, thanks for showing up to this class. Hope you learned something.
Thank you so much.
And I'll take a look at that document and make sure you get that. And if it doesn't work in the Google Doc, I can just send it to people or whatever. But it's a good one.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more workshops from Creative Strings Workshop.